ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवंश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमद् भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नाम्ने गौरत्विषे नमः। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। So we will start from verse number 14 today, chapter 3, Śrimad Bhagavad Gītā. 14, 15, these two verses we will chant together and then we'll discuss. Annad bhavanti bhutani parjanyadanna sambhavaha यज्ञाद् भवति पर्जन्यो यज्ञः कर्म समुद्भवः। अन्नात् from grains, bhavanti grow, bhutani the material bodies, parjanyat from rains, anna of food grains, sambhavaha production, yajnat from the performance of sacrifice, bhavati becomes possible, parjanyaha rain, yajnaha performance of yajna, karma prescribed duties, samudbhavaha born of. Translation: all living bodies subsist on food grains which are produced from rains. Rains are produced by performance of yajna, that is sacrifice, and yajna is born of prescribed duties. Verse 15. Karma brahmodbhavam vidhi brahmakshara samudbhavam tasmat sarvagatam brahma nityam yajne pratishtitam. Karma, work, Brahma from the Vedas, Udbhavam produced, Vidhi you should know, Brahma the Vedas, Akshara from the Supreme Brahman, that is personality of Godhead, Samudbhavam directly manifested, Tasmat therefore, Sarvagatam all pervading, Brahma transcendence, Nityam, eternally, Yajne, in sacrifice, Pratishtitam, situated. Translation. Regulated activities are prescribed in the Vedas, and the Vedas are directly manifested from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Consequently, the all-pervading transcendence is eternally situated in acts of sacrifice. Thank you. So we see in these two verses, verse 14 and 15, Bhagavan is describing the cycle of sacrifice. So it is said here that Bhuta, Bhutani, that is the material body of all the living entities, they subsist on food grains, that is Anna. So Bhuta, that is the material bodies of the living entities, are depending on Anna, that is the food grains. And this Anna comes from Parjanya. Parjanya means the rainwater. And Parjanya produced from Yajna, that is sacrifice. And this sacrifice is a result of the prescribed duties, that is karma. And where this karma comes from Vedas, which is stated as Brahma here. In verse 15, we see karma brahmodbhavam vidhi. This Brahma means Vedas. So karma comes from Vedas, that is Brahma. And Brahma comes from, that is Vedas, comes from Aksharaha, that is the Parameshwaraha. So this is the cycle of sacrifice. So we see that according to Shruti, it is said that Asya Mahato Bhutasya Nishwasitam Etad Yat Rigvedo Yajurvedaha Samavedaha Atharvangi Rasaha. So it is said that all the Vedas come into existence from the exhalation of the great Ishvara, that is the Parameshwara, the controller of the living entities. Now the Lord is omnipotent, so he can speak by his breathing air. And we see that is also in Brahma Samhita. Angani yasya sakalindriya vrittimanti pashyanti panti kalayanti chiram jaganti. That Angani yasya sakalindriya vrittimanti means any of his organs can perform the activities of any organ. That is why we see in deity worship, Vigraha worship, it is said, and it is believed, and it is a fact actually, that Bhagavan receives the bhoga, the offering, by his eyes, that is through the glance. So Angani yasya sakalindriya vrittimanti, or asya mahato bhutasya nishwasitam etad yad, all the Vedas. So we see that Bhagavan is very merciful, that after creating this material world for the rebellious children, that is we, the conditioned souls, he gave the direction to return home, return to Godhead in the form of Vedas. He gave all the instructions. So we see that he is the source of all the sacrifices, and he is situated in the acts of yajnas. It means that Bhagavan can be attained by the performance of actions as a worship or by the sacrifice. And there is another saying that Udyamastha Sada Lakshmihi. It means that the goddess of fortune resides in enthusiasm. So similarly, in the same way, Bhagavan is eternally situated in the sacrifices or in the actions which are performed to please him as a worship. So this cycle of sacrifice is stated, and in conclusion, Bhagavan saying in verse number 16, we see एवं प्रवर्तितं चक्रं नानुवर्तयति हयाः अघायुरिन्द्रिया रामो मोघं पार्थ स जीवति. Evam, thus pravartitam, established by the Vedas, chakram, cycle, na, does not, anuvartayati, adopt, iha, in this life, yaha, one who, agha ayuhu, whose life is full of sins, indriya aramaha, satisfied in sense gratification, mugham, uselessly, partha, O son of Pratha, that is Arjuna, saha, he, jivati, lives. Translation. My dear Arjuna, one who does not follow in human life the cycle of sacrifice, thus established by the Vedas, certainly leads a life full of sin. Living only for the satisfaction of the senses, such a person lives in vain. So about this cycle of sacrifice, Bhagavan is concluding in this verse. He says that follower of the cycle of sacrifice go back to him. So the following of this karma chakra, evam pravartitam chakram, this karma chakra is very essential. And na anuvartayati, does not follow. Indriya aramo, why does not follow? Because of sense gratification. They don't feel like to follow. Indriya aramo, they are always busy in sense gratification. So Bhagavan says they live uselessly. Jivati mogham. So the people who are actually living just for sense gratification and they are not paying their gratitude, as we discussed in the previous class. Different kind of yajnas of present day also, we discussed everything in our last class. So if people are not in that line, in that path, then they are actually living uselessly. Jivati mogham. So human life is for self realization, as we say again and again, and not for sense gratification. And we see that karma, what is real karma? Real karma is to please the Lord by every possible way. Worshipping the Lord directly or indirectly through our actions. So our ultimate goal is to satisfy him and return back to him in our true nature. So these three verses are on this cycle of sacrifices. And then in verse number 17 we see Bhagavan starts saying the position of a self-realized person, as he made us understood that the purpose of human life is self-realization and not sense gratification. And now he is saying again that the position of a self-realized person. He discussed in chapter 2, we know that vidheyatma, matparaha, everything he discussed how we should, how a self-realized soul should act. So now again he is saying in this verse and the following verses. So first we will chant. यस्त्वात्मरतिरेव स्यात् आत्मतृप्तश्च मानवः आत्मन्येव च सन्तुष्टस्तस्य कार्यं न विद्यते. यः, one who, two, but atmaratihi, taking pleasure in the self, eva, certainly, syat, remains, atmatriptaha, self-eliminated, cha, and manavaha, a man, atmani, in himself, eva, only, cha, and santushtaha, perfectly satiated, tasya, his, karyam, duty, na, does not, vidyate, exist. Translation. But for one who takes pleasure in the self, whose human life is one of self-realization, and who is satisfied in the self only, fully satiated, for him there is no duty. So these three words are very important here in this verse. That is Atmarati, Atmatripta, and Atmani eva santushtaha. So Atmarati means who takes pleasure in the self, that is in the soul. Atmatripta means self-eliminated, and Atmani eva santushtaha, that is self-satisfied. And Bhagavan says there is no duty for such a person, because there is no more obligations to the Vedic injunctions for this person. When a person takes pleasure in the soul, then he cannot take pleasure in matter. It is not possible simultaneously. So the material world then fails to captivate this person anymore. He is always satisfied in the self. So then this person actually as if sits in the lap of Sri Bhagavan and becomes fearless and blissful. So for him, we see all the dualities of this material world are vanquished. And Bhagavan continues, verse number 18, we see the position of a self-realized person. 18. नैव तस्य कृतेनार्थो न कृतेनेह कश्चन न चास्य सर्वभूतेषु कश्चिदर्थव्यपाश्रयः. Na, never, eva, certainly, tasya, his, kritena, by discharge of duty, arthaha, purpose, na, nor, akritena, without discharge of duty, iha, in this world, kaschana, whatever, na, never, cha, and asya, of him, sarva bhuteshu, among all living beings, kaschit, any, artha, purpose, vyapashrayaha, taking shelter of. Translation. A self-realized man has no purpose to fulfill in the discharge of his prescribed duties, nor has he any reason not to perform such work, nor has he any need to depend on any other living being. So these 3 points that Bhagavan is mentioning here. There is no purpose for him to perform the prescribed duties, 1. There is no purpose of non-performance of the duties, number 2. And number 3 is there is no need to take shelter of any living being. So such is a person who is self-realized. So it means that then he becomes the most blessed soul on whom the Supreme Lord has bestowed his mercy. Otherwise it is not possible. Tasmin tushte jagata tushtaha. So if he is satisfied, then the whole world, all the 3 worlds will be satisfied. And he then permanently stays in Paramananda Dhama. That is the abode where there is only bliss, the supreme bliss is there. The abode of eternal bliss. So we see that the activities in full Krishna consciousness or divine consciousness, nothing is material. And that is why they cannot be considered as action or inaction in the strict sense of the terms. We will come to know the definitions of action and inaction in the later chapter. So, but as their activities are not material, so in the strict sense of the term, they cannot be considered as either action or inaction because they are transcendental. And the continuation is there in verse number 19 also. Not continuation, we can say, and the conclusion also. That is why Bhagavan is giving his instruction. So, tasmad asakta satatam karyam karma samachara asakto hyacharan karma paramapnoti purushaha. Tasmat, therefore, asaktaha, without attachment, satatam, constantly, karyam, as duty, karma, work, samachara, perform, asaktaha, unattached, he, certainly, acharan, performing, karma, work, param, the supreme, apnoti, achieves, purushaha, a man. Translation. Therefore, without being attached to the fruits of activities, one should act as a matter of duty. For by working without attachment, one attains the supreme. So as Bhagavan started discussing in verse 17, the position of a self-realized soul, verse 17 and 18, and then he is giving the conclusion in verse number 19. And in this verse, tasmat asaktaha satatam karyam karma samachara. Because asaktaha hi acharan karma param apnoti purushaha. The first line is the instruction and second line is the reason. So asaktaha means without attachment, that is being unattached. So do the activities remaining unattached. And then is satatam, always. It is not about any particular work that we are doing. For each and every action that we are performing. Satatam, always. We see that why satatam? There is a saying, we all know that the spiritual life knows no holiday. actions without attachment for the pleasure of the Lord is the topmost sadhana. There is no higher sadhana than this. So there is no time for a break, because the moment we stop our organs from the service of the Supreme Lord, immediately they will engage themselves in the material activities. That is our position. So satatam, this particular word is very important. Satatam karyam karma samachara. Remaining asaktaha means unattached. And samachara means it is not that just, okay, let it be done anyway. No. With great care and attention. So, to be performed beautifully, with great care and attention. Sometimes we see that the lack of attention in actions is considered as dispassion, as we discussed earlier also. If we can't perform all the actions attentively, then it is impossible to progress in spiritual life. Even we cannot progress in material life, because focus is needed in everything, in studies, whatever we are doing, in everything also. So in spiritual life, we can guess how important it is. In spiritual life, we have to study, we have to chant, meditation, and they all need great care and attention and focus. So samachara, this word is very important. So tasmat satatam karyam karma samachara asaktaha. This is the instruction that Bhagavan is giving. Means, therefore, do all the actions with great care and attention, always remaining unattached. Why? Because asaktaha hi acharan karma param apnoti purushaha. Because in that way only he will be able to attain the Supreme. And this one thing I missed, because karyam karma, this is also there could be another meaning. What is karyam karma? It is possible that karyam and karma, they are two different words, but karyam karma, if we take them together, then it means kartavya, that is duties. Karyam karma. So Bhagavan says that the action should be performed remaining unattached to the fruits of actions. So, and they should be considered as the matter of duties only. Karyam karma. Just take them as your duties and you try to perform them with great care and attention. Why he is saying this to Arjuna? Because Arjuna has to fight for Krishna, as Krishna wants him to fight. So he needs to fight the battle for Krishna's satisfaction. So this is Arjuna's topmost duty at present, because it is Bhagavan's instruction that you fight this battle. So Arjuna must understand that if it is the case, Bhagavan is instructing him to perform this battle, then definitely it is his wish presently at this moment. So it is his topmost duty to follow. That is karyam karma, his present duty. Okay, so this is the position of a self-realized person, and the self-realized souls act in this way. So Bhagavan is instructing Arjuna and all of us to follow in the footsteps of a self-realized person, so that if we are not yet self-realized, in course of time we can reach the position, the desired position through our sadhana. Okay, so with this we will end today's session. वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे